comes to it with a paycheck. So,
Good evening, everyone. This is Tuesday, the January 15th, 2019 Town of Monroe Planning Board regular meeting. Noreen, would you please take the roll call?
Anthony Vaccaro,
Here.
Lisa McQuaid,
Here.
Bonnie Franson,
Here.
James McKnight,
Here.
Jason Sorinsky, absent, Jeff Manson,
Here.
John Allegro, absent.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4,
We
5.
have a quorum.
We have a quorum. I'd like to point out the fire exits. There is an exit at the main entrance in front of me, another one over by the kitchen, and then there's another emergency exit behind me through this door.
Excuse me, Bonnie, can you just pull your mic?
Sure.
Put it to the side if you like, and then you can just. Yeah,
Let's get this over here. How's that?
yes.
Okay.
There we go.
So let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I missed that, Ward. All right. First application on the agenda is Hillside and Scott. Welcome.
Mike, do you need a copy of the agenda?
no, I haven't.
Mark?
Got it.
But Mike does need that for his file. Okay.
So when you're ready, why don't you provide us with an overview of what you've done since Thursday?
Okay, I'm
And
Tom
submitted.
Depew with Depew Engineering. I represent Scott Development. As requested, we had gone back and looked at the updated zoning. The only thing that really changed was the lot coverage, which it used to be 50%, now it's 25%. What we did was we updated our zoning table on sheet number 1 and sheet number 2 to reflect the actual setbacks and the coverage. And it reflected on Lot A as 21%, and B was 21%. So we see we were 22% on B and 22% on Lot E. So basically met the criteria. The only thing, the coverage is actually based on the layout that we had on our sheet number 2, which was I think they had it was like a bi-colonial house that was proposed. We included in our square footage, we show a wood deck, but a lot of times they pour a concrete slab underneath that, so we included that in there, just so, you know, the coverage. So basically the coverage, we were all met on the different lots, and all the setbacks were met. And then on the sheet number 4, Mark had requested that we modify the road cross section, which we did. We had 2 different details. We basically need to get the 26-foot width, which is the code for the fire apparatus access that's in the building code. So we widened out the overall width to 26 foot on the one detail, and the other detail was a half detail, so we showed that at 13 feet, which would give you a 26-foot fan also.
I know, Mark, you may not have had time to review this, and you're certainly just receiving the revised plans. So we'll just need to check to make sure everything's consistent with now the existing regulations. We did waive the cluster subdivision.
Right.
I'm just checking to see, I know we had requirements about setbacks from lot lines, but I don't know if they only applied to undersized lots. And all these lots are considered complying in the district in which they're located, the lot sizes?
What's that?
The lot sizes all comply?
Yeah, they all comply.
Okay.
Yes.
In the corner lots. So I know it's sort of starting this process over only because you didn't get grandfathered.
Right.
So my question would be, we're gonna have to do, and I guess this is a question for Mike. Will we have to do seeker again, and do we need to do a GML review again?
I believe since the subdivision is the same, and you had given this a negative declaration actually twice before, that you could reaffirm that negative declaration again. I think we should have another referral to the Orange County Planning Department, because we had a follow-up discussion with them on that issue, and that's their preference. They want to see them,
Okay.
even though they reported out on this before.
Okay. And did you submit another EAF, or is there an EAF? Or I guess we're gonna rely on the neg deck you're saying, Mike, rather than,
You know, the old EAF would be fine, but I mean, I think unless there's any change, and there isn't, it's the same
Yeah.
subdivision as before.
Yeah,
Okay.
we haven't changed anything since the original approval.
okay. So then, I would recommend that we send this out. Mark, unless you think that you need to review it, should we send this to Orange County?
I see no reason why it can't go to the county, because as we've discussed, it's virtually identical.
Okay.
I
Hold on
suspect
a
they'll have the
second.
same response.
Did you, I may be missing something, did you update the revisions table? Because the last map that I have says
We
9,
did
9,
not,
12.
because if I do that, the health department will have to re-review it. So it's out in the, it's actually out in the margin someplace. Because we go through this all the time. If you look on the interior margin, the problem you got with the health department, if we make a change, it doesn't affect anything they do, and I'm sure Mark's run into this. You change the date in the revision of as when they approved it, then they have to re-review the project. We've run into this before.
Is that the case?
With not all reviewers, but the majority, so it would be opening the Pandora's box for them. And it's just for the record, the changes that Tom is making with the road detail have no impact on the approval from the health department. So it would seem counterproductive to make them have to go through the county review again.
So if they already reviewed it, and it doesn't have to go, does it get filed with them?
File with the county, and the county's gonna consider it a changed plan.
And that's the case for all the sheets, so we can at least just on one, let's say, cover sheet, say that there was a change or revision, so that doesn't affect the rest of them in some way?
Does sheet 4 have a not reviewed by Orange County Health Department on it? Yeah, it has, so you could put that revision date on sheet 4. This is
Okay.
not reviewed by the county.
All right,
And
yeah,
that, I believe, is the sheet that you've revised,
yes,
correct?
yes.
So we could get sheet 4 with a new date on it,
Okay.
and that would be the only one I believe that would have to change.
Yeah,
It
we
just
can
so,
do that.
yeah, that'd be good.
Confusing to keep track of.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, I don't know if you change the road width, if that impacts the drainage calculations.
It was a compacted surface anyway. The only difference is they're putting oil and chip on it instead of just compacted item.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, we widened the road and lessened the shoulders to get the 26 foot. So it didn't change the impervious area at all.
Again, for the last go around, this already had final approval? Okay. Do any members have questions with regard to this application?
One quick question before we,
Sure.
what's the right of way width on the private road?
I believe it was 40 foot, if I remember right.
Okay, while he is at county planning,
I think all those roads up there.
while he is at county planning, I will get the highway superintendent in similar fashion to review this relative to a waiver for the 40-foot versus 50-foot right-of-way, because this did predate the town code.
Yeah, but, and then we had actually got a zoning variance which still runs with the land for the private road usage and everything.
Speaking of which, would we need to send them back to the ZBA for an amendment to their variance?
I don't think they had, I'd have to look at the decision. I don't think there was a durational provision. I'd have to
No.
look.
Okay.
It's on.
It's on.
Yes. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. All right, so we're going to refer to the highway superintendent. We're going to send this to Orange County Planning Department for GML review.
Yeah.
I think in the meantime, we'll review the plans, just one last go around in detail. Mike, if you could update whatever resolution was prepared.
Yes.
And I guess we'll reaffirm the neg deck. I'll take a look at the EAF that was done prior. So I think that's what we can do for now. You know, Orange County has their 30-day time clock
Right.
to review, so you should be able to come back. I don't know if in the next meeting, if they do come back with a review, then you could come back for the next meeting, but we'll have to wait till we hear back from them.
Okay, all right,
All right?
yep.
Okay.
And do you need one set of drawings?
I have 2 sets here.
Yeah, but they're just the revised sheets. They probably want to review the whole set again.
Oh, I don't know, what do you want me to send?
One more question. Did
I
you
would send the set that you just submitted to us.
Just the 3 sheets?
I would send the whole set,
Okay.
1 and 9.
do we have this on PDF? Was that distributed?
Yes,
It was emailed to them.
we do have it.
Tom, could you make sure when you submit the 1 through 9, is that one set?
Yeah, one set.
I'm gonna request that he ship one over to me as well, so that maybe when you do come in the next time, I'll have gone through the whole set
Okay.
and make sure we're ready.
All right, I'll send this out tomorrow.
So I'll PDF you the whole set 1 through 9.
We don't want PDFs.
What, hard copy?
I'd rather have you pay to print it than have me tie my people up printing it.
Ah,
So if I do that with all 300 applicants for this month, I have to open up PMP Quick
all
Copy.
right. No problem, we'll print them out.
Please
And
provide it, yep.
For future submissions, can you please include a cover letter? If you're gonna send this to us at 11:40, the day of a review, could you please send a PDF cover letter? Because reviewing these plans on a little 5-inch cell phone screen is kind of hard.
Well, we're gonna have until the next meeting to review
Yeah.
as well.
But
I
in
appreciate
general,
the comment.
I would appreciate this little blurb that you send in the email
Right,
as a PDF cover letter.
okay,
It's just easier for me to view on a little 5-inch phone.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, members? Nope. All right.
Okay, thank
So
you.
we'll wait to hear back from Orange County, and then Mark will do his detailed review of the 9.
And I'll
10.
work this out with the
Lunch
highway
time.
super.
Okay, all right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll send, I don't think I've sent the full schedule to Nancy, but I will send it tomorrow,
Okay,
of all the meetings.
all the meetings, okay,
Yeah, I don't have it with me tonight.
all right.
Excuse me.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Lakeside subdivision. Good evening.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for your consideration of putting us on the meeting tonight. I personally and truly appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
David, pull that microphone in really quick, please. Thank you.
And David, why don't you give us an overview of where we are and what you've submitted?
sure, absolutely. So on the Lakes Road subdivision plan for Hudson One Enterprises, we had a technical meeting last month where we met and went over the details associated with the project and the conservation easement and the road access, and I believe the plans that we submitted reflected all of those comments that were at that technical meeting, and we're hoping to continue, probably continue on with whatever other comments you may have, or go to public hearing.
So this is on the agenda, it's showing up as Lakes, but you're calling it Eagle View Estates? Just to be clear?
Yes.
Okay. Mark, did your office have a chance to review the application and the plan set?
We've got some notes, and I think it would be, I'll go over some of them, but I believe it would be helpful if, Dave, you're available, maybe for the technical workshop, to go through and actually maybe have you go through and mark up some plans and make some corrections. But first and foremost, something that you've got to get as the town, before you can even think about scheduling a public hearing, you've got a major subdivision. Land subdivisions in the state of New York have to be prepared by a licensed land surveyor and stamped by a licensed land surveyor. I can't do them as engineers, and architects can't do licensed land surveys or subdivisions. So we need to get a set of plans in here. Ultimately, we've gone past the concept stage. Something stamped by a licensed land surveyor, because this is a major not a major subdivision, but it is a subdivision of land. So I think once we get past some of these comments I have, The next step is to roll those into a set of drawings that include the appropriate subdivision plat from a surveyor. So that you should have before you even think about any public hearing. So, that said, the plan, and I'm not sure what the process is that the board prefers for bulk tables, but there's now a bulk table on sheet SP1 that actually has for the required values what I believe is the proposed cluster values. Those are not the values required by code, so I would think you'd want to have, to make the table complete, a column that shows required by code and then, proposed cluster numbers, because the cluster lot values need to be approved by the board, but they're not the code. So that really should be cleaned up. And then the board, probably tonight, if you believe it's heading in the right direction, perhaps could give him some direction as to the values you believe are acceptable for the cluster alternative, and then up to you if you want to have them in the same bulk table or have those values on a table specific to the cluster plan. And Mike probably remembers more.
We'll need to incorporate into the resolution the bulk table parameters that are the essence of the cluster, so it's helpful to have them on the plan.
I think my fundamental question is, was this finally reviewed to determine that the yield is correct and they can achieve this yield? Because first we have to look at the conventional to see if it's doable. If it's not, then we can't kind of proceed to the cluster yet.
Which raises another question, because you've got two lots that are both part of the application. There's lot 61, which is a non-conforming small lot, the lot that fronts on Walton Terrace. My first question would be, are non-conforming existing lots eligible for permits, building permits, without the need for variance?
Well, they're making it part of this subdivision, right?
But not for the conventional version.
Oh, no, that wouldn't be an approvable lot, right?
So,
Well, what do we have for existing, it's a substandard lot? in terms
substandard
of
existing
size?
lot that appears to have two deed parcels that are encompass the one tax lot, is that correct?
I forget what the codes,
It's only the one on Walton Terrace that was a pre-existing non-conforming lot. The one accessed off of Lakes Road definitely meets the bulk.
Oh, no, I didn't question that. I'm speaking of lot 61.
It's
So,
a pre-existing non-conforming lot.
so as long as that's eligible as pre-existing non-conforming, then from a
I'm looking to see
conventional.
what the new code does, whether it gives special step-down tables or what it is.
Okay, sorry.
While you're looking at that, if that lot is, by conventional standards, eligible for a development as a single-family residential lot, then lot 60 easily can be split into the two lots. It has frontage, meets frontage, and the three lots that are proposed in the cluster subdivision would be supported by the conventional plan. There's a number of small corrections that should be included on the plans and the plat that would be prepared jointly between the project architect and the project surveyor. I don't know whether or not it makes sense for me to go through and list, and I've got a couple pages of them. It would make more sense that this is the poster child for what the technical workshop is for.
Are you available for the technical workshop?
When is it?
When is it next meeting?
Friday.
We have one this Friday.
I will make myself available.
Okay.
He'd be the second applicant.
9 o'clock?
Probably, who do we have first? I forget. George Lithgow's first. So 9:30?
So I'm looking at the configuration on the screen. Are we in the right place here? Or here we are, right? So it's this lot here and this lot? Are those the two?
Sorry, I can't see.
Oh, sorry. So is it this lot and this lot that are included? If you could just point out the lots which are included in the application. I think you're off of here, right?
It's the one right
No?
right in the bend of Walton.
Or am I too?
This one,
Right here.
this one, Terrace.
It's right below your pen there. It's down in there and there.
Okay. And this lot here is not being reshaped at all?
The small lot,
Right,
that's my understanding.
okay. David, why are we including that one in the subdivision? Remind me. Was it for access or,
Yeah, that's where the private road runs in.
so the access is coming off of the back?
Off Walton Terrace.
Okay, gotcha. Board members, do you have any questions?
I'm still looking for the section that talks about how we handle lots that have become substandard by virtue of changes. I'm not seeing it.
The good news relative to the private road, I did have the opportunity to meet with the highway superintendent last Friday. He has no issue with the waiver for the road right-of-way width, with the note including a plan that at no time in the future could this be proposed for upgrade and dedication to the town, because there is a substandard right-of-way. As most of you know, John wears two hats. He's the fire chief and highway superintendent. So from a code compliance standpoint, he does want the road, as it has to, meet the 26-foot wide road improvement standards in the state code. That new detail that I'm working on with the town board, it's, as Tom indicated, just a matter of having the finished surface widened. It's the rest of the details identical to what's in the town private road detail specifications now. He had no objection to that, and the T turnaround that we worked out, he has no objection to. So he's working on a memo with me to send to the board to issue that waiver. So he had no issue with it.
Mike, you were asking about some of the regulations. There's a section 57-39.
39?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just came across that. I think that's it, yeah. Undersized lots, there it is. Notwithstanding the lot area, lot width, and lot coverage requirements of the Schedule of District Regulations, a single-family dwelling may be erected on any lot separately owned and not adjacent to any lot in the same ownership at the effective date of this chapter, provided that the aggregate width of the side yard shall not be less than 25% of the lot width, and that the narrower side yard shall not be less than 6 feet in width for lots that cannot conform to the standard C 5765 C7. But I guess if you have a lot alongside, it's like a deemed merge clause, so it's not a standalone lot. It would have to be reconfigured to meet bulk.
So that poses a question as to the conventional yield then.
Yes.
And then 5765C.
Look at that next.
That has to do, I think, with non-conforming buildings.
Okay, so that doesn't.
Non-conforming, if it's non-conforming lots.
Okay, but it doesn't. Okay, it does not mention lot size in there. But the exception exists only for lots that are not in, that are in separate ownership. If you had a standalone lot that was substandard, you get the protection of 5739 and the benefit of those reduced bulk table requirements. But now, if the lot does not meet the minimum lot size and it's adjacent to a lot also owned by the same applicant, then it is not eligible for a building permit and has to be reconfigured as, with new boundary lines on the larger lot. So you have to relay out the convention.
So I think this is something to discuss at the technical meeting, how this fits and whether in fact the yield is 2 or if the yield's gonna end up being 1 for that additional lot. I don't think that's something we could tackle right now, but we'll need to address it on Friday.
Agreed.
Anybody else as far as the layout that's shown? I mean, it's contingent upon, it may be that you need to get, I guess, a variant. I don't know if you can get variances from
Yes.
that provision. It may require variance if you want to pursue it.
Section 57-21.7, subsection 7, talks about all lots must comply with a minimum lot area of 7,500 square feet. We do.
Could you repeat the section?
57-21.7.c.
So if it meets minimum lot area, we don't have to worry about 5739, but we would have to look at whether it meets bulk for it to be approvable. I was
But we
assuming
are
it did
under
not meet minimum
conservation
lot area.
easement. Conservation easement does grant
It does,
a
but,
latitude
right.
with this, so.
Agreed, but the first step is first, can you meet the conventional? If you can meet the conventional, then you have the latitude with the cluster. So first we have to see whether, based on those requirements that were just identified, whether you can still yield the number of lots that are shown. And I think we just have to go literally through the zoning and make sure.
So if we back up to Mark's second comment, in revising the bulk table, you want to see the conventional requirements for each lot, and then continue on with what we.
Well, that's
show
how
as
you would come
That's
up
the
with
first
the.
step, yeah.
Yeah. you-
Yep. Oh, sorry. Let me turn that off.
I would think that it would make sense on the conventional plan to show the zoning requirements as they are on the bulk table, and then whatever you're proposing for the cluster, those bulk values could be on a table on the cluster plan, and then in the approval resolution, it would tie into those tables.
I have no problem with it. I think our first submission had the conventional.
You did, you
Yeah.
did.
And then we revised it. Okay. So
So let's meet on,
happily, we already have that research.
You
So
got it all
that's
done.
So that's done. And I will, without doubt, bring it to the technical meeting. But I'm somewhat convinced that even the pre-existing non-conforming lot did comply with the bulk
And
table.
if it does,
You know,
and if it does, then there isn't an issue, and then we can proceed.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? No? So for the next meeting, just make sure you take a look at the plans, and we will be meeting on Friday to go over
Yeah,
this.
and I suspect that we can work out a lot of the little detailed plan corrections on Friday, and then we'll have a nice clean set with all the information for the next meeting.
And thank you for working everything out with the DPW super.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. It worked out good that I could get a hold of him and meet with him Friday.
David, anything else on this?
No.
No? Mike? Mark?
no,
Okay. So while you're there, next item on the agenda is Kingsville Synagogue.
Yes. So, on this project, we revised the plans and the zoning requirements per our last meeting, which was very productive. And it lessened the requirements needed, but yet we were able to still meet some of the other questions or concerns that the board had, especially regarding parking. So that's probably the single most important topic, regarding this. And we proposed double loaded parking, since there are residents that live there at Kingsville Drive. So during times of religious service, the residents could park in the back or in the second area of parking without question. And those congregants who are meeting there would definitely be able to access that drive easily, park in the front of those, and then leave. Even though cars are not going to play a major factor in this arrangement, yet we still comply, and even more so, we added additional parking.
Mark, do you have comments?
I've got some notes to go over.
Okay.
I think the best thing that happened for this site, given some of the issues, was that the board did, after looking at it closely, classified it as a gathering place under 5713J. The items that are required under J, some are similar, some are a lot less restrictive and a lot less burdensome. One thing that I would suggest you get in the normal format that the board asked for, and not necessarily a cover letter for the application, but an actual narrative, you should get a lot of these things documented. So which is part of the approval process. That gets attached to the resolution. I don't know that we've got, and maybe I just don't have it, the narrative that lists compliance with all these items.
Are you looking for your narrative?
Yeah,
Yeah, there is a narrative.
I
in the
did,
packet.
I did provide, we did
Okay.
provide a narrative, I don't have my folder.
Okay, I'll have to look at it. I don't know that I,
It's a one-page letter,
yeah.
Is this it? I
Uh,
don't know if you can
yes.
see it there.
December 28th.
If
Is it
you-
updated based on the gathering place?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll, yeah.
I'll print another one.
In any case, we need to make sure that's in. The board has the flexibility in the code to decide the appropriate number of parking spaces, and I extend that even further to accepting the layout that is being proposed. The spaces as they're proposed aren't all accessible, as Dave indicated. The first row may park and may get blocked in by the second row. So if that's acceptable, then so be it, but I suggest that the board look closely at the enlarged plan on the bottom left and the layout of the parking, and discuss with Dave the number and if it's adequate, because that's a board decision.
Does our code allow that kind of parking? Or is it silent?
It's silent in this aspect because it's not what we normally would consider public parking for retail or office, where everyone has to have the ability to come and go. So I seek some guidance from Mike, but I believe the way it's written is pretty much unilateral authority of the board to review what's needed for parking on this type of an application.
I'd have to look at it.
So, David, how many, could you explain the parking you're showing? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wheel stops.
Yes,
So those are 6 parking spaces, and then you're suggesting you can do parking behind, additional parking behind those?
or in front of those, however you.
In front of, okay.
Yes. So we're thinking of the back row, during times when the place will be used as a synagogue, would park or house the vehicles that are associated with the family that lives there. The row of parking in front of that would accommodate any congregants that would be meeting there for this service. Again, I think we exceeded, by a strict interpretation of the parking calcs, we exceeded the requirements by 2 additional parking spaces, just to show compliance and show some kind of flexibility with the amount of cars that could be there. Because I remember one of the comments from the board was, how do we know there'll be enough cars? Will there be, is there any room for growth? Things of this nature. While they're not anticipating that, while it is again a unique meeting place, and that is pretty much related to just the family members surrounding the area, we feel that this layout will be more than suffice for their needs.
My concern with parking is, having been there a number of times, I saw essentially cars parking within the right-of-way of the road, and they were kind of head-in. So I think there is a demand for parking, not even just during services, so we need to make sure there's adequate parking. I don't know offhand what the regulations are for parking on South Blooming Grove's village roads. Are you aware of what those are? Are they allowed to park?
No, I don't. That's why I'm looking forward, or I'm thinking if we can go to as soon as we go to public hearing, we can get comments back from the surrounding municipalities.
I know, having been at Village Hall recently, they have the plans.
Okay.
I believe they were going to refer them first to the building inspector, to
Okay.
Jeannie Overson,
Eugenie Overson.
so she could look at them. So it's there, and
Okay.
they're supposed to be looking at them, but I was just curious if you know offhand what the parking regulations are.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have to say, every time I've been there, I haven't seen any parked cars on Kingsville Drive. I haven't.
Okay.
All the cars associated with the houses in that area, and anything. I have not seen any cars parked along there.
Okay.
From a dimensional standpoint, if the board has no objection to the double stacked parking. Just keep in mind the 18-foot dimension that they show behind the second row is really inadequate to back out for 90 degree. You need at least 24. So you're about 6 foot short of getting vehicles in and out of there. And that's assuming everyone pulls up tight to the person in front of them. The last space all the way to the left, which is the one offset wheel stop, that's probably a good motorcycle spot, because you'll never get a car in and out of there. There's no
Compact car.
small electric car at best. But
We're energy conscious.
so you really got 10 usable spaces if the back out is corrected. So at minimum, you should get the back out corrected, and the last space could be a resident that has their car in there before anyone else comes along, and might be able to get that one in.
So you're saying the back out should be 24?
At minimum, that's the recommended standard on any code I've ever seen. 25 is preferable, 24 is minimum. And these are only 18-foot spaces, so they're less than what many guidelines are. So it's a little tight, but if you got that up to 24, it would probably work.
I don't see a problem with that.
Well, that was one of my questions, was the spaces for code is 9 foot wide, a standard width for a parking space. What would be the norm if not 18 for the length?
The 9x18 is Monroe's standard, but
Okay,
it's
but it's a type standard.
a tight standard. And when you pack in double row at 9x18 and then have an undersized back out, it's just too tight, especially if anyone shows up with a larger vehicle. So again, there's a lot of flexibility in the code for this use class for the board. So I would suggest at least get the 24 back out to give them a better opportunity for it to work.
David, do you feel that the 24-foot back out would be
28
achievable
maybe.
in that layout? Do you have the space to do that?
Yeah, there's an existing stone wall shown
go.
beyond second row parking. I believe we have the additional 6 feet to do that.
You
And
can move that other part forward if you had to a little bit. A little space between.
yes, we could.
Because it's retaining on both sides. So you come a little closer to the one and closer to the one behind.
Yeah, we would move, for the purpose of this conversation, we would move the parking up the page. Or not move the parking, but increase the parking spaces going up the page towards that retaining wall.
How tall are these retaining walls?
They're not 30 inches.
As long as they're adequate and in proper condition, have a vehicle parked up near them, so you'll have to take a look at that.
Of course.
Are they on the pictures that you provided here? I don't know if there's anything close up. These are just surrounding dwellings, right?
Yeah, you have architectural review
Right.
jurisdiction, so we provided those pictures. Actually, you begin to see, well, the retaining wall's back here, so it is difficult to see.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try and zoom in here a little bit.
No, I don't mean to stand in front of you, sorry, but it's back here.
Okay. Maybe we can see it, I'll try and see if we can see it on an aerial. Any other questions, members? Mark, Mike?
At your meeting on December 13th, you had talked about issuing a lead agency notice of intent because Blooming Grove DPW is involved.
Right.
I had prepared that. I was not at your meeting on the 18th. I don't know.
It came in after I left work.
Right.
So it never
So,
came to
okay,
them.
so I'll make sure it gets mailed now then.
Right, well, nothing was reviewed on it at all, so I had
Okay.
grabbed copies and brought it with
No,
me
it's-
tonight.
Okay.
So we haven't done lead agency circulation yet?
No.
Okay, so we need to do that before we set a public hearing. We'll take care of lead agency circulation, subject to Mike
Can I take it was sent to the
reviewing.
Orange County Planning Department too? It wasn't
I
already?
believe so, yes.
Yeah, all right.
And we haven't received anything back from Orange County?
No, but I'll double check my records.
Okay, so it's out for GML. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I had one. In relation to the detail on the enlarged parking, I noticed there was a note that said you're gonna remove that fencing because I guess it extends beyond the property line.
Correct.
Will that be the entire run of fencing, both?
Oh, no, just the portion that's
That's on.
beyond the property line.
Will any of that fencing be replaced at all beyond the, like, will you bring the line of the fencing back onto the property, or?
There's really no need to.
Okay.
Yeah, there really is not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what purpose the fence serves in its entirety, whether
Correct.
it's mostly decorative or, you know.
Yeah, it's not need, there's no need to replace it. Just make sure it's off the property.
So if the fence comes down, is there an opportunity to add some tree cover on that side of the parking lot with, you know, again, depending on how the ultimate dimensions of that work out to be, to do some additional screening?
Yeah, not much, but well, yes, to answer your question, but not much, because that existing retaining wall is close to where the property line meets that right of way. So, but we can put a group of landscaping there.
I mean, I know that was an earlier concern, that we were looking at screening one side, you know, the one end of the parking lot. But because of the fence, that wasn't gonna be so feasible on the other side. Now it might be a little more feasible, and if we can look at that.
I believe once you widen that drive out to the 25
It's gonna go away.
or 24, you're going to lose any opportunity. There'll be such a small space left. And
Then it'll be-
again, one of the other benefits of the 24 or 25-foot access that's behind those parking spaces, that lines up with, for emergency access to the facility. So that becomes effectively the wide driveway that if there is a problem, emergency services can come straight in.
Yeah.
So that's why you want that to be a no parking area and just the access drive.
So, Noreen was just looking at her notes, and her notes say that parking was to be resolved prior to sending out for GML review. So it hasn't gone for GML, so we have to send it
It'll
out.
go in the morning.
You may want to get one that has the proper back out dimensions, because if I picked up on it, I'm sure the county will pick up on it. And so,
You know what, I agree.
Okay,
Let us revise it
and then send,
and then send it out.
okay.
Because the next meeting is.
Will be our workshop meeting in February.
I would even maybe tomorrow or Friday at the workshop, let's look at this one as well.
Okay,
And if the board has no objection, we could have Dave update the plan, and then with the board's authorization, we could have it shipped out to county planning after the revisions from Friday
okay.
discussion.
So we'll add this also to the Friday informal meeting.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Any comments at this point? No?
Just, how many residents are in the house, David?
I believe, well, there's a couple.
What I'm getting at is how many cars really does the residents have?
I think they have 2 to 3 cars.
So we have to ensure that there's enough for everyone.
David, on the narrative, make sure you include all of the activities that may go on, because there may be prayer groups, there may be educational sessions. We seem to find that many of the religious buildings that have been proposed in the town have a lot of those things. So if they're included, the numbers of people that would attend, they may be less than the 18 you're talking about for services, but I think they should be in the narrative.
I reviewed it with the owner. He did not add anything to
Okay.
the narrative.
Just
But,
so he understands, the narrative will be at the outside limit of the activities that are allowed. So if it's not in there, they will be in violation of the approval if they start conducting other activities. We want to give you free rein to tell us what you propose, and if it's acceptable, it will be approved, but nothing beyond what's in that narrative may be carried on.
I'll review with the owner.
Anthony, anything else?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. And we'll have this back on our workshop agenda in February as well for the board members, but we'll be meeting on Friday then for this.
At 9:30.
Yes. All right. Anything else? All right. So we'll see you on Friday. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Do we have minutes to approve? No. So we'll have to Holdover minutes for November, December.
They'll all be at, February, I apologize.
Okay. Anybody, comments, anything that members want to raise before we adjourn the meeting?
I will not be at the next workshop meeting. I will be traveling away on a business trip, so.
Okay. Mark or Mike, anything?
No.
No?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, with that, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Tom, you second
second?
it here?
Yes.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Motion carries, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very